Welcome to No Nonsense Nonprofits. Hi, I'm Sandy Ray, founder of Sandra E. Ray CPA, where we alleviate financial headaches so that you can create a bigger impact. Today's topic is nonprofit payroll. Should you outsource? Today, we'll be walking through the essentials of nonprofit payroll, the common pitfalls that you can experience, and how outsourcing can save time and even reduce risk without breaking your budget. So, what is outsourced payroll? Payroll is pretty much the same for profits and not for profits. It's not just cutting checks, it involves the tax filings, the legal compliance, and employee classification. Many nonprofits try to do payroll in-house because of budget constraints or limited staff, but doing it manually can be risky. There's all kinds of compliance issues, and you could easily fall out of compliance. And once you do, there's penalties and interest associated with that non-compliance. Payroll can be time consuming. It's not difficult to understand. It's just there's so many steps and they have to be done in the right order. And there's so many things to consider outside just processing a payroll check. And the time that it takes to stay compliant if you're doing it in-house can really distract you from your core mission. So outsourcing payroll is probably one of the first things I recommend to small nonprofit organizations. Partnering with experts, and there's many good payroll companies out there. There's Paychex, there's Gusto, there's QBO Payroll, there's ADP, there's many more. Partnering with these organizations gives you access to payroll and tax professionals. Many of them will guarantee that your payroll processing and filing reports and all other compliance is going to be handled correctly. And if there's a late payment or something's not done correctly, they will take on the burden of the penalty and the interest. And that happens with a lot of their full service packages. That is just one of the biggest benefits you will see with these companies. So we're going to see reduced errors because these are experts. And you're not going to have the administrative burden. Not saying that you're going to get out of the payroll process altogether. You're going to have to input your payroll on their website or whatever, however, upload information, however you do that. But it is going to help you with the payroll processing and staying compliant. And all that time that you save, you can apply towards your programs and your mission. So let's talk about some key facts about nonprofit payroll. Yes, nonprofits pay payroll taxes. Now, if you're a 501c3 public charity, you are exempt from FUTA tax, but all the other taxes apply. You have federal income tax for your employees. You have Social Security and Medicare, the employee portion and the employer portion. There's federal unemployment tax. There's state unemployment tax. There's other state requirements like family leave and retirement savings. So what is the employer responsible for? The employer has to make sure that we're matching the FICA contributions, which is Social Security and Medicare, and making sure that you understand the unemployment insurance options and requirements by your state. Not only uninsurance, but workers' comp insurance as well. Some states for unemployment will allow you to do a cost reimbursement, which means once someone files for unemployment, you reimburse the state for their out-of-pocket rather than paying a percentage of wages as people are working for you. Other state requirements, we talked about disability insurance, workers' comp, depends on your location. Some states have required family leave requirements. Some states have retirement savings requirements. It just depends on the state that you're in. So you really need to do your due diligence for your state. And this is where those experts come into play for outsourcing, especially if you're expanding your organization. We're all doing a lot more remote work. Maybe you have somebody who's working from home in a different state. They'll be able to help you through that process. Other forms that you're going to have to file related to payroll, other than processing the payroll checks. Of course, we've got the 941s, which is the quarterly report that goes to the IRS regarding payroll. States also have quarterly filing requirements for unemployment. Annually, you're going to have the W-2s that have to go out. You're going to have your Form 940, which is your federal unemployment tax, and any other state filing requirements that you're going to have. Some of the common pitfalls in payroll processing, and these outsourced organizations can help you with these. The first one and foremost one is misclassification of workers. We're talking about a contractor versus an employee. A mistake can be very costly. If your organization misclassifies an employee as an independent contractor, not only could you be subject to interest and penalties on back taxes like Medicare and Social Security that the employer didn't withhold or didn't pay, but you can be responsible for the employee's portion as well. And that was never taken out of their check because we assumed they were an independent contractor. And then there's penalties and interest on top of that. So that's a big one that we need to be very clear that we're classifying workers properly. And that's probably a whole nother topic that we could get into at a later date. A lot of us have tight budgets, limits on the ability of your staff to hire or keep up with compliance. We hire people to run our programs, not as a human resource expert. As you get larger, you may want to hire an in-house human resource person and payroll person, but many of these organizations outsourced payroll processing also have HR type of services, or you could hire an HR person on contract as well, just so that when you have those types of questions, is this an employee or is this an independent contractor? How are we dealing with what are our requirements for we want to institute a 401k? What do we have to do to go through that? Those kinds of things can be outsourced. And then compliance risks, that's the biggest one. There's so much compliance that goes on with payroll taxes, benefits. How do you have medical insurance that's not taxable to the employee? That kind of thing. And if there are errors, there's IRS penalties, there's interest that goes along with those penalties, there's back taxes that have to be paid. And any legal missteps can damage your reputation and hurt your funding because donors find out that we're not handling our compliance with payroll the way we should be, and that's not a good thing. Hopefully, I've convinced you that outsourcing your payroll is great, but if I haven't, I want to give you some benefits as well. It saves time and reduces errors, and in the long run, it probably is less costly than paying penalties and interest on a mistake that's made. And I can guarantee you, if you're trying to do it yourself, you're going to make a mistake. I've done this in the past, and even I have missed a deadline and had to pay a penalty. These people have it nailed down so that doesn't happen. And when something does happen, they handle it. So you're not going to have any more spreadsheets where you're juggling payroll information or missed tax filings. So you're going to make sure your compliance is done. You're going to stay aligned with the IRS and state-specific regulations. You can really focus on your mission given the time that you're going to be able to save, because processing payroll is a very time-consuming thing to do. So less administration equals more impact in your community. And every hour saved on payroll is an hour spent making a difference. So that's the way I like to think of it. Not only are we saving time, administrative time, and probably saving on penalties and interest. You got to think about both of those, the time and the potential risk for penalty and interest versus the cost of the payroll processing. I can almost guarantee that the cost benefit analysis is going to go to the outsourced payroll. So to wrap up a little bit, payroll doesn't have to be overwhelming or even risky. Whether you're a grassroots nonprofit organization or scaling nationwide, the right payroll solution can save you time, reduce risk, and help you stay focused on your mission. So I would like you to evaluate your current payroll process. Are you spending too much time? Are you confident in your tax compliance? If the answer is no, consider outsourcing your payroll function. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions on this or other topics, please put it in the comment section below. We always appreciate your likes, and I want to thank you for joining me today. Remember, creating a bigger impact starts with stopping the nonsense. If you're dealing with nonsense in your nonprofit organization, we'd love to help you cut through the noise.